By these measures, some within your party hope to silence the opposition. I assure you they will give it body and solidarity.
Well, I am a party of one, Thomas.
As you well know.
Why blacken your fragile reputation by an assault on the freedoms for which we both fought? Do you intend to ship out the entire French population of the United States? Along with any other luckless soul who happens to voice a contrary opinion?
Well, if that contrary opinion threatens to divide the nation at a time when we must stand united, then yes, I will do just that. I'm entrusted with the nation's safety, Thomas. So these war measures will protect us from insurrection and subversion.
There is no war.
And that is the principle behind these measures. The prevention of war.
Cannot protect the nation by attacking the right of every man to speak freely without fear. You're trampling on the Constitution.
I think President Trump needs to watch this particular film. But nonetheless, the film helps us appreciate the dialogue over immigration policy during the era. Stephen Delane plays Thomas Jefferson, and Paul Giamatti does a wonderful job portraying John Adams. Immigrants fleeing revolution in Europe had the potential of creating conduct or speaking language inciting rebellion against the authority of the state. John Adams' Federalist Party used this act to incarcerate Democratic Republicans and journalists who challenged Federalist policy. It was passed to control a perceived threat to U.S. national security. And Thomas Jefferson, what he's going to do is resign from his position in John Adams as his vice president, and he's going to escape to Montebello and eventually come back and challenge him in the election of 1800. And when Thomas Jefferson comes back to power in 1800, his administration will abolish the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. But what is important to note about this experience is that white European immigrants are always considered by politicians as potential sources of support. This is very important with regards to understanding and appreciating the race hatred that we have today. Whites are being told that they're wanted, okay? So let's appreciate the early administration's treatment of citizenship or naturalization laws. And let's talk about the naturalization laws that are going to be passed by the early administration. Among the few powers that are explicitly reserved in the Constitution for the federal government is that of naturalization. The national government, not state governments, retains control of naturalization. It is the federal government. The constitutional mandate of Article 1, Section 8 vests naturalization powers with the national government. Now, had nationalization powers rested with the states, states not wishing to receive immigrants could have developed restrictive naturalization rules. Now, the first Congress developed an outline for naturalization requirements that has survived for the past 240 years, or 220 years, however long this nation has been. With a brief 4-year exception to the rule in the early history of the nation, most immigrants have been assured of a relatively quick transition to citizenship. Now, despite periodic local passions against immigrants, the United States has consistently provided immigrants a path to citizenship. This is what makes this country so amazing, is that everyone in the world has, or every nation in the world has people here in the United States as part of its citizen. Policymakers have addressed who should be offered citizenship and who should administer their transition from immigration to citizen. So U.S. naturalization laws has examined the question of who should be offered U.S. citizenship, and they do it in 2 ways. The first involves the categories of immigrants to be offered citizenship. Who should be allowed citizenship? And then the other way, the second, concerns the characteristics and the abilities that individuals within these categories need to have to be eligible for naturalization. So, throughout the 19th century, Congress's primary concern was who should be allowed citizenship. And beginning at the turn of the 20th century, the debates focused on the characteristics and abilities that individuals possessed. Now, in one of its first acts, the first Congress established the framework for U.S. naturalization. The laws addressed both the question of categories and individual qualifications. So, if you could put back up on the bottom third the naturalization laws. Now, in 1790, and I want to share with you 1790, 1795, 1798, and 1802. 1802 is very important because that law is still with us. But it starts with 1790. It extended the privilege of naturalization to all quote-unquote free white persons. Okay? So remember, this nation was created for free white persons. Please understand that. Trump is constantly addressing that issue. All right? There were residency and character requirements of those free white persons. Now, among the white immigrants, individuals had to have resided in the U.S. for 2 years. That was in 1790. And in the state that they're applying for citizenship, they had to reside in that state for 1 year. Applicants were to be of good character, and they had to take an oath to support the Constitution. Children became citizens through their parents' application. And then the privilege of applying for citizenship was limited to only men. And again, remember, we got race, class, and gender all tied into the foundation of the United States, especially with regards to immigration and naturalization. Women could only gain citizenship through their husbands. Now, the First Amendment to the law came just 5 years later in 1795. And I'd like for you to keep that up, so I'll be addressing that. In 1795, Congress extended the minimum period of U.S. residence to 5 years and added 2 requirements. In addition to swearing allegiance to the Constitution, new applicants had to renounce their former allegiance by name. So, for example, if you're an immigrant from England, you had to, and you're coming into the United States and you want to be a citizen of the United States, you had to renounce your allegiance to the King of England. And immigrants also had to renounce hereditary titles to nobility. So if you were a prince, if you were a sir, you had to renounce your title. And this is a requirement that remains today as a question on the naturalization application. You cannot have your title. Now, in response to the anti-immigrant fervor of the Alien and Sedition Acts, again, with regards to fear, now we come to the 1798 law. Congress amended the law in 1798 in response to the immigrant fear by extending the period of residency from 5 to 14 years. Now, as part of its effort to limit access to U.S. citizenship, Congress excluded from eligibility citizens of countries with which the U.S. was at war. And by 1802, once Thomas Jefferson is back in power and challenges John Adams for the presidency, national concern about loyalty declined, and under the Jefferson administration, the naturalization requirements of 1795 were reestablished. So the requirement of 5 years of residence prior to naturalization, enacted in 1802, that has not been changed. It is still part of the process today. Okay? Now, let's take a look at who's going to administer the award of citizenship.